Thomas Warrick is former Deputy Assistant Secretary at the US Department of Homeland Security and joins me live now from Washington. Thanks very much indeed for joining us, Thomas. Events are closing in on the former president, aren't they? It's hard to see how the National Diary for 2024 will accommodate it all.
You're absolutely right. The judge in the federal court in Washington made it very clear that in her court, the needs of the criminal case will take precedence over Trump's outside interests, including his presidential campaign. This is exactly the same of what you would see if a corporate executive were being tried for criminal fraud. No judge would allow the corporate executive to say, well, I need to run my business, and so therefore my trial should be put off for 2 years. Nevertheless, the judge also made it clear she thought the prosecutors' attempt to begin the trial in early January 2024 was too ambitious. And so she struck what she thought was the right balance. And so I think this is a good sign that the judge will continue to try to push this case independent of what is going on in the American political calendar.
And the judge, she's on solid constitutional ground, I presume.
Oh, absolutely. There is a right in the United States to a speedy trial. This right belongs to both the defendant and to the public through the prosecutor. And so the lawyers will get a reasonable amount of time to study all of the documents and to put their case together. But the judge is not going to allow the defendant to say, I can avoid trial for 2 years. In the obvious hope that he or one of his allies will be elected president and could bring the federal case to an end prior to receiving a jury verdict.
The outside world, Thomas, is watching with fascination how Donald Trump's popularity as a candidate with his own team only seems reinforced by all these indictments. I mean, is there any sign of that resilience in the Trump camp breaking down?
So the American people have, almost without exception, already made up their minds about Donald Trump. His supporters continue to support him. The people who don't support him continue to not support him. And so I really think that this trial is not likely to change very many Americans' minds. I think the American people have largely made up their mind. And the result of the last presidential election is probably an accurate predictor of what would happen if President Biden and President Trump run against each other again in 2024. We're likely to see a repeat of the vote total that overwhelmingly favored Joe Biden in the popular vote.
And given what's happening in what we've seen perhaps in the recent Republican debate, also what's happening in the White House, is the clever money still on a Biden-Trump showdown in November next year?
Yes, it is. But I think one thing that has to be understood is that the mounting weight of these court appearances will exact some kind of toll on the Trump campaign. He could choose to waive his right to appear at a trial in public in favor of campaign events, but that would be at the risk of sending a wrong message to the juries who will be deciding the president's fate. Under the American system, a jury of his peers, a jury of the American people, will sit in each of these criminal cases and decide whether to convict former President Trump or to acquit him. And so the court appearance schedule is going to be a very serious distraction from the campaign trail, and this may leave it open for other candidates to say that the Republican Party needs to cut its losses and choose a different candidate for 2024. But you're absolutely right. The odds right now favor a Biden-Trump rematch. And I think any betting person would most likely put their money on that.
Thomas, thanks very much indeed. Thomas Warrick, former Deputy Assistant Secretary at the US Department of Homeland Security there.